I can tell that a lot of you fools do not know how to read a simple exit poll. So I thought that the Karen video that I did on Stacey Abrams would probably be the last video I do on her for a while, but I just couldn't let this opportunity pass me by. I mean, after all, it's content. And what made me think about it was I was on a live stream with Beatzilla and Black Alpha Network. Shout out to both of those men. Huge voices, up and coming voices in the new black media. And we were just talking about the results from the midterm elections, and Stacey was a focal point in there. And, we just, had our jokes, took our digs and everything like that. I mean, hell, she deserved it considering the platform that she ran on and the stuff that she was pushing out there anyway. But I remember Beatzilla pulling up some tweets from some Karens, because these, as far as I'm concerned, I separate Black Karen and black women from each other. They're separate groups as far as I'm concerned. Where they were talking a whole bunch of stuff about, it's black men's fault why Stacey didn't win, and the whole niggas ain't shit. Basically, like someone said yesterday was National Blame a Black Man Day. And I'm recording this on November 10th, 2022. So that was on November 8th. So that was 2 days. No, it was yesterday the 9th. But if they would read a decent exit poll, they would know that the real culprit of why Stacey didn't win was not black men. We have shown the results that black men voted 84%. I think it was 84% when it came to Stacey Abrams, or maybe higher. I think it was like 87. I think it was like 87%. And 93% was black women. Black people as a collective were her biggest voting bloc out of every group that was polled. The lowest of her voting bloc, however, was PC men and women. I believe PC men polled at 23% and PC women polled at 27%. So the real culprits of why Stacey lost was PC men and women, in particular women, considering if you want to go that feminist angle. They did the same thing in 2016 when it came to Hillary Clinton. Remember when she, when a lot of black women thought that they had PC women on their side to help vote for Hillary Clinton, because they probably knew a lot of black men wasn't going to be really feeling Hillary like that, even though when those exit polls came back, it showed that black women were like the biggest voting bloc, and black men were the second biggest voting bloc. And who was the smallest? Again, PC men, which was a given, and PC women. As a matter of fact, the second biggest voting bloc for Trump was PC women. So they basically did the same thing here, but this time with Stacey Abrams. But what gets me is that you have people out there who will be quick to say black men didn't vote for her. And I was telling Beatzilla and Black Alpha on the stream, if you took away the percentage of black men, like every percentage of black men that voted for Bryan Kemp and gave them to Stacey Abrams, guess what, you fools? She still would have lost. So now what you got to say? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this article, and then I'm going to actually show you the poll of what the results look like, because some people need a visual aid because reading is just, it's so beneath them, apparently, mainly because a lot of them don't know how to read. The article I'm reading is coming from News One. First, let's get one fact out of the way. It's hard AF, or hard as fuck, to get a black person elected as governor in this country. On Tuesday, Wes Moore, who I have many issues with, as many of you already know, made history by becoming the very first black person to be elected as governor of Maryland. But the statistic that's even more telling is the one that shows he's only the third black person to be elected as governor of any state in U.S. history. In other words, nobody should be surprised Stacey Abrams lost to incumbent Bryan Kemp in Georgia's gubernatorial race. In fact, Abrams' loss, unfortunate though it may be, provides an opportunity to dispel a loud and wrong narrative that prevailed throughout much of her campaign. The idea that Abrams was losing ground with the black community and black men in particular turned out as false as the notion that black male voters would be instrumental in getting Abrams elected. For example, Run the Jewels rapper and great value political commentator Killer Mike suggested that Abrams, a woman who was instrumental in galvanizing Democratic Georgia voters in 2020, was not doing enough to attract black men, in which he would be right. And it's crazy how much they attacked Killer Mike because of him saying something like that, and then him saying a little bit of something that could have been seen as support for Bryan Kemp. And I've talked about that before. It was basically a hit piece. Mike even praised Kemp for running an effective campaign with black voters, despite the fact that Kemp's only connection to the black vote appears to be his enthusiasm for making them, quote unquote, disappear. Unsurprisingly, the exit polls tell a different story. The polls show that black people, who represent just over 31% of Georgia's population and 28% of those who voted, represented 90% of those who voted for Stacey Abrams. Over 80% of black men voted for the woman who was, quote unquote, supposedly losing ground with her black male voting bloc. I just pulled up the poll right now as I'm reading. I'm going to go back and address it in a little bit. Here's another completely uninteresting and unsurprising water is wet fact. Kemp won because white Georgians overwhelmingly voted for him. As usual, white people were the only racial demographic majority to vote Republican in the 2022 midterms outside of American Indians, who represent 1% of voters. And that was also the case in Georgia's gubernatorial race. So maybe the truth is Abrams' loss was inevitable because despite Georgia voting in a Democratic president and flipping a couple of Senate seats in 2022, the Peach State is still very white and very red at heart. I mean, Atlanta Metro can't do all of it on its own after all. So as you can see, this is the poll right here for Georgia. It says Abrams, Kemp, Hazel. I'm guessing this is a write-in. Of course, you know that Hazel person is a non-factor in this, so we're just going to focus on Abrams and Kemp. So they have sex by race. Let's start at the top. PC men, 31% of them voted in total. 23% voted for Stacey. 76% voted for Kemp. White women, 30%, just 1% lower than her man. 27% voted for Stacey, so that's 4% higher than PC men. And 72% voted for Bryan Kemp, which was 4% less than PC men. Now we go down to black men. You know, the apparent villain in all of this. 84% voted for Stacey Abrams and 14% voted for Kemp. Black women, 93% voted for Stacey Abrams and 6% voted for Kemp. Now that's 20% in total. If you took this 20% in total who voted for Kemp between black men and black women and threw them to Abrams, guess what? She still would have lost. Because remember, Kemp had 56% and Abrams had 44%. So even if you threw those to her, it would have pushed her up a little bit, but not enough to have her garner a win. Latino men, 55% voted for Abrams. 44% voted for Kemp. Latino women, 55% voted for Abrams and 43% voted for Kemp. I guess her little stump thing didn't work as hard as she thought it would. And all other races, which is like Asian, Native American, all those other groups, 50% voted for Stacey and 47% voted for Kemp. All these two right here is what sent him over the edge, as you can see. Because what they're not telling you is, or factoring in, that there was a lot of black men and even a lot of black women that did not vote. So some of people don't lean or are affiliated with any party, so they couldn't vote for them. But when we're looking at just who voted, it's obvious why she lost. And it's obvious why there was no way she was going to win. But they just have to find a way to make black men the boogeyman of every narrative, even though 84%, which is 9% less than women, than black women, which is still an overwhelmingly amount of support, voted for her. But see, what they want to focus on is this 14% that didn't. But guess what? That 14% wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered. And while we're talking about it, since they want to try to make seem black men are traitors and whatnot, every single time something like this happens, they always leave out the black women that don't support whatever it is that they support. They only focus on the men. Why is that? But then again, it makes me think of when Ice Cube went to go talk to them hens over at Fox Solis, and he was talking about the contract with Black America, and you had them hens over there saying, well, what about black women? They need something too. But he was telling them, you're in the contract with Black America, aren't you? Are you not black? But that's what happens when you have some people out here that keep trying to separate themselves. You're only separated really by gender. Last time I checked. But yeah, there you go. I figure I make this video because some people still don't get it. And even after I've done this video, people still won't get it. But here it is right here. Rewatch it a few times if you feel that it's not sinking in. But it's pretty obvious. People out here just need to learn how to read a damn exit poll. It's not hard. This is the whole layout right here. But people think that, oh, but she had 93% from black women. She had 84% from black men. She should have won. No. And while we're at it, let's talk about why these numbers aren't higher. Didn't she go stump for them? She actually told them what she was going to do for them. Well, these two groups right here. And they barely was over half. But it's these two right here that helped this guy get reelected. It's not this category's fault why this person lost. I wasn't going to add this in, but you know what? Let's take it a step further. Sorry about that. This is the exit poll for the nation nationally. This is for the entire U.S. as far as every single state that participated in this year's election, broken down. As you can see, PC men, 36%, 35% in total voted Democrat, 63% voted Republican. PC women, which actually was the #1 voting bloc this year, as far as gender, they actually superseded their men by 1%. Which means more of them came out to vote this year than any other group. 45% voted Democrat, 53% Republican. And as you can see by this list, if you jumped ahead, these two are the only voting bloc where their leanings with the Republicans superseded their support of the Democrats. Because last time I checked, 63 is higher than 35 and 53 is higher than 45%. Black men, which represented 5% of the voting bloc, 82% of black men voted for Democrats and 17% for Republicans. Black women was 6% nationally, 88% Democrat, 10% Republican. Latino men, 5%, 53% of them voted Democrat, 45% voted Republican. Latino women, 6%. 66% went to the Democrats and 33% went to the Republicans, and all other races, 49% went to the Democrats and 47% went to the Republicans. Now, what I've noticed is the women for every group polled higher than the men of that same group. 37% for white women which is 1% higher than white men. 6% of black women over black men was 1% higher. And the same thing with Latino women, 6% over Latino men with 1%. This is all other races. They don't factor in their genders. They just kind of throw them all into one cluster. So that shows you right there that women as a whole, as a collective, voted more than the men did this year. And maybe it's because the men know something that maybe possibly they don't. I don't know. And like I said, these are just the people who voted. They don't count and factor in the ones that did not vote. But why would they? They wouldn't be a factor in this. It could be, but not necessarily, if they're just going off of just votes or who voted. But yeah, even more interesting right there when you break it down nationally. And I bet you there's going to be some fool out there that's still going to say it's black men's fault because of the 17%. When you look at all the groups of men, black men polled lower with the Democrats. With the Republicans in every category of men. 63% of white men voted Republican, and 45% of Latino men voted Republican, to black men's measly 17%. As a matter of fact, black men and black women polled the lowest amongst that party. If you added them together, they still would be the lowest of that party collectively out of all the other groups that voted Republican. But you're going to have someone out there that's going to write some kind of echo chamber think piece that think that they're actually saying something when they're not saying much at all, or if anything at that. I just let them wallow in their own pity, wallow in their own little stew, if you want to call it that. But the point of the matter is, going back to the original point, Stacey didn't stand a chance. And that's all there is to it. I thought I was going to leave this part out of it, but I had to insert this in here when I saw it. So you have this person wrote this blaspheming tweet to try to say that this is the reason Stacey lost. If they can't blame a black man, they'll blame it on the weight thing. Now, we already debunked the it's black men's fault why Stacey didn't win. We already went through that. But look at what this person wrote. Fat phobia has hurt Stacey Abrams' attempt to win elected office more than we are willing to acknowledge. To be fat, black, and a woman is to be disqualified for the job before you get a chance at an interview. Oh, y'all, this is a microcosm of why the Blackarin videos exist on my channel. This is why. This is not the main reason why by far, but this is one of the reasons as to why. To sit up here and say that it's because of her weight or because she's black or because she's a woman, that is absurd. It's because she wasn't doing what she was supposed to do. I mean, look at it. Look at how much of a platform and a pedestal they have put Lizzo on. And she would fall into all three of the categories this person is talking about. Oh, but because of Stacey Abrams, it has to be because she's obese. I guess any excuse will do. That is not the reason why she lost. It's far from it. Have they looked at all these other candidates? They probably fit into one or some of these categories and managed to pull out a win for whatever it is that they were running for. So to try to use this as an excuse is not working. It's not helping at all. And you sound silly. And even more than sounding silly, you look it too.